Welcome back to another Notebook Check Tech review. We've got the Acer TravelMate P2 series here. This is one of the many in the range. This is the 15.6-inch version without the discrete GPU inside. It's actually a pretty nice device. It's a fairly basically styled device, but it's got Ultrabook internals. So we've got a U-series Broadwell inside here, Core i5 in this version, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of fast SSD. We've got a DVD writer, we've got a good selection of ports, AC Wi-Fi, so really a nice all-rounder. And we gave it an 81% score, which is a good score in our Notebook Check Tech review. Let me just give you some performance highlights, some ups and downs on the device, some pros and cons from the Acer TravelMate P257M. So let's take a look at the working fascia of the Acer P2, starting with the keyboard. Now there's no backlight on this, and that's one thing we did mark it down for in our review. Touchpad was okay, soft integrated mouse buttons there. Now the screen is full HD, so it's a 16:9 1920 by 1080, so full HD screen, but it is a TN panel, so you'll see inversion when I move that screen up and down there. It is a matte screen covering, so that's a positive point there. But of course, because it's a TN panel, it's not IPS, you're not going to get the widest viewing angles. Given that this is a very low maximum brightness, I'll give you the figures on the screen now, the device is clearly aimed at an office user where there's enough ambient light to see the keyboard, and that it's going to be a single user experience straight onto the screen there. Before I show you the ports, let me just pop open the DVD writer here. It's plastic, and there is an incredible amount of play and flimsiness in that. In fact, it doesn't even fit flush when it's closed, so build quality of that is really not that good. Let's take a quick look at the ports though. We've got a USB port on this side, power there on the back. Flip it around. We've got fan output. Now it's worth mentioning at this point it's a fairly quiet and fairly cool device. I'll pop the max temperatures up on the screen for you after this, but the VGA port, Ethernet port, HDMI port, and 2 USB 3 ports, pretty standard stuff there. And there's the headset port on there, Kensington lock. You've also got a full size SD card reader underneath there. On the back, well, it is possible to get in, but there's no obvious access point there. Let me pop up a few screen test figures for you on the screen now. 205 nits center, that's a fairly low maximum brightness, and the contrast here is not high, to just over 500 to 1. Adobe RGB coverage, fairly basic at 37%, and variation from colors. That color checker, Delta E2000, 9.76. Well, it fits in the class, but it really isn't class leading in terms of accuracy of colours. The deltas for the grayscale are a little bit high too, so not the best screen. How about performance? Well, this is, as I said, Ultrabook style internals, so expect Ultrabook style performance. This is not a gaming laptop, there's no discrete graphics in here, but there's enough to push through a day's work of office without any problems at all. Let's start with the SSD though. That's a fairly fast SSD there. Really impressed with the 500 plus sequential read speed there. 93.9 4K write speed is not too bad either. PC Mark 7, that's 4293, probably pushed up by the fast SSD. If we look at the Toshiba Tecra there, the A50, that comes down at 2956 points with exactly the same GPU inside, but that's got a spinning hard drive inside it. There are the Cinebench R11.5 multi-CPU CPU scores, 2.85. That's kind of high-end Ultrabook for 2015. And certainly combined with that snappy SSD is going to give you quite a fluid experience in terms of office working. One of the important things to mention on the TravelMate P257 is the temperature. The max temperature of 42.1 on the top right. Underneath is not too bad at all. In fact, the keyboard area stays very cool, and the whole thing stays fairly quiet as well, so the fan doesn't spin up. There's certainly enough thermal room in there to get the best out of that U-series CPU. We didn't see any downclocking of turbo during extended performance and load testing. Battery runtime then. We've got a 37 watt hour battery inside, not the biggest battery you'll find in a laptop of this size and weight, but it does idle down pretty well. 11 hours, up to 12 hours idle we got there, but that's a fairly obscure scenario. Wi-Fi surfing, which is done at 150 nits, 5 hours 21 minutes. That's not too bad there. DVD player about 4 hours, and under load, of course, that is going to go right down 1.5 hours, or 1 hour 23 minutes in our load test there. Running through some of the pros and cons then. Good, well-built casing, a little bit plasticky, a little bit fingerprint sensitive, but there's a nice dual band Wi-Fi with AC support there. The keyboard is nice, fast 256GB SSD, good thermals, and economic, quiet and cool. Watch out for those fingerprints though. That DVD drive module doesn't look to be very strong. The keyboard isn't backlit, and that's probably the thing that's going to really separate this from other devices in this segment. At €800, you're probably going to be expecting a backlight. But if you're using this just on an office desk in a brightly lit area, just for yourself, then that's probably not going to be too much of a problem. Overall score then, 81%. That's a good score from us here at Notebook Check. Acer TravelMate P257M there, getting an 81%, a good score from Notebook Check. Just a couple of points to watch out for: a little bit plasticky, fingerprint sensitive surface. That keyboard has no backlight, and that DVD writer there, the mechanism is really quite loose, so it's not up to quality you might expect for a device that costs €800. But if the price is going down, keep an eye out for it. This might fit your requirements for an office-based 15.6 inch laptop. Stay tuned, don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed this series. We've got more coming up, and we've even got an MSI gaming device coming up in the next few days, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review.